Hello everyone, in this video we are going to have a detailed look at the NMAT syllabus. Now to start with, if you were to understand the test, this test is a computer adaptive test, meaning that your response to a question is going to dictate the level of difficulty of the next question that you are going to get. Now this test is scored on a level of 36 to 360 marks or on a scale of 36 to 360 marks. Each section is scaled on a level of 12 to 120 marks, and the cumulative scaled scores across each section is going to dictate the total sum that you are going to get or the total marks that you are going to get on this particular test. Now there are 3 sections in this particular test and you have the choice of ordering them according to your convenience. So you can either attempt quantitative skills first, followed by language skills, followed by logical reasoning, or any other permutation of these 3 sections that you have here. The quantitative skills section comprises of 36 questions that you are supposed to solve in 52 minutes. Then logical reasoning section consists of 36 questions again that you are supposed to solve in 40 minutes, and language skills comprises of 36 questions that you are supposed to attempt in 28 minutes. There is no negative marking as such, but there are penalties for not completing the section. So if you are not able to finish a particular section, the system will not know what band to place you on, and because of that it will not really give you a score, or it will penalize you and give you a lower score than what you would have expected. Also, you cannot skip any question. So you have to ensure that you are reaching the last question with sufficient time left and you are not really struggling throughout the entire section. Having said that, it is almost mandatory that you get the first few answers correct, so you can invest a bit more time on the first few questions, and at some point in time, let's say you get stuck, you can skip that or you can answer that question randomly instead of skipping it. So you can't skip a particular question, you have to answer a particular question to move to the next question. Now let's look at the first section that we have written here, the quantitative skills section. Now, in the quantitative skills section, the first topic that we have is called number properties. Now, in terms of number properties, there are 4 topics that are present. The first topic is the basics of numbers, fractions and decimals. So, fraction to decimal conversion, decimal to fraction conversion, what kind of number is there? Is it a whole number, natural number, rational number, irrational number, and so on. So, all these things are important from the perspective of the number properties. The second topic that we're looking at here is the divisibility of numbers and finding the units place digit of any number in the form of a raised to b, or when you have a product of a into b into c into d till n. The third topic that I'm talking about is in terms of factors. So how many factors are there? What are the special kinds of factors that exist? What is the sum of the factors? So all these topics are important. In terms of multiples also, what exactly is the multiple that you are going to reach at a certain point in time is also very important, and consequently what is important here is in terms of the least common multiple and the highest common factor, or the LCM and the HCF concepts. The last topic which is considered to be a part of number properties at the NMAT is logarithm, and there you will have the basic rules of logarithm that you will have to apply. Now I have put up a couple of sample questions for you to just have a look at. So you're not expected to solve it right now. Having said that, if someone wants to solve it and put the answer in the comment section below, you are more than welcome to do that. So the first sample question that we have here is the question that we have that is based on divisibility. So this is a sample question that you can find at the NMAT. I have another question here which again talks about digits and numbers in general. Now moving on to the second area that we are talking about, it is arithmetic. In terms of arithmetic, again you have the usual suspects that we have as a part of the NMAT. The first topic that I'm talking about is percentages. So you can have percentage change, successive percentages, profit and loss, and so on and so forth. The second topic that I'm talking about is in terms of simple and compound interest, which might use some elements of percentages as well. The third topic again is something that is related to percentages and involves profit, loss and discount. The fourth topic is ratio, proportion and averages. So again, it is a fairly straightforward topic that you would have been solving since a long time. And the last thing is time and work and partnership. So you have to again understand what is the amount of work done, what is the efficiency of a particular individual, pipes and cisterns based questions, and so on and so forth. And you also have to figure out the ratios into which you are supposed to divide profits, and in terms of partnerships, what exactly should be the share that will go to a particular partner. Now I also have a couple of questions here that you can have a look at in terms of the sample questions. So we have one question here that is based on percentages. You can again try it out on your own. I don't intend to solve this question, but if you get the solution, do put it in the comment section below. I have another question here which talks about mixtures and ratios. So there are three solutions that are present and so on and so forth. Now moving on to the next area that we have, the third area that we have from quantitative skills is algebra and probability. So this is basically how NMAT classifies their questions. This might not really be the way in which you would have been classifying questions for the CAT, but in terms of the NMAT, this is how it works. In terms of algebra and probability, there are again 4 topics that we have here. The first topic is equations and inequalities. So you can have linear equations, quadratic equations, simultaneous equations that need to be solved that have 2 variables, 3 variables and so on. The second topic that I have here is sequences and series, wherein we are talking about arithmetic progressions, geometric progressions, harmonic progressions or sequences which also involve AGP, arithmetico-geometric progression. The third topic that I'm talking about here is permutations and combinations, which involve arrangements and selection of objects or division of things into groups. And the final topic here is probability. So probability again has applications from number theory, from permutations and combinations, even from algebra in some cases. And then you have to solve the questions which will tell you what exactly is the number or the chance that exists for a particular event to happen. There are a couple of questions that I have put here in terms of algebra and probability as well for your reference. So you can just try out these questions. So this is one question that we have which talks about the roots of a quadratic equation. And the second thing talks about a harmonic progression. So these are again sample questions that can appear at the NMAT. The last area that we're talking about is in terms of 2 areas that we have. One is data interpretation and the second is data sufficiency. Now data interpretation will involve caselets and tables. So the normal tables, pie charts and so on can appear at the NMAT as well. There is one small thing that you have to remember here, that whenever you are solving a particular caselet, you will have to browse the entire window so as to be able to go to the next question. If you have not really seen all the corners of a particular question by scrolling horizontally and vertically, you will not be allowed to move to the next question, and there will be a prompt that will ask you to visit the entire question before you move on to the next question. So caselets and tables is one part of data interpretation. The other is graphs and charts. Now, of course, you can represent a graph or a chart in the form of a table or in the form of a caselet. So these two are interchangeable in nature. However, we see basic graphs, basic charts that appear at the NMAT very frequently. In terms of data sufficiency, again, there are 3 question types that you can get from data sufficiency. Here, you are expected to figure out whether the data given is sufficient to answer a particular question or not. So the 3 question types that we have here are number properties based. So on the property of a number. So for which numbers will this particular inequality work, or do we need extra data to figure out whether x lies from 0 to 1 and so on and so forth. We also have arithmetic based questions that exist, wherein you might be asked some question that is based on arithmetic. So if x takes 10 days to finish a piece of work and y takes 20 days to finish a piece of work, and if they want to do twice the amount of work, how much time will they take, and so on and so forth. And then there will be some other additional information that would be given to you. The third question type is algebra and probability based. So again, you might talk about the roots of an equation, you might talk about the probability of an event, and there will be 2 pieces of information that will be given to you in the form of 2 statements. Now I have a sample question here in terms of data sufficiency. So what is the speed of the train is the question. There are 2 statements that have been given to you, and you have to figure out whether you will be able to answer this particular question using only statement 1, only statement 2, either statement 1 or 2, both statements 1 and 2, and you will not be able to answer this question at all in spite of using all the information that you have in these 2 statements. Now moving on to the second section that we have, the second section is that of language skills. Now in terms of language skills, there are 6 topics that we have here. The first topic is, of course, reading comprehension. So there will be a passage followed by some questions, and you will have to answer those questions. The second topic that I'm talking about is in terms of paragraph forming or jumbled paragraphs as we know it erstwhile. So there will be some statements given to you. You will have to rearrange them to form a paragraph. and whatever is the paragraph form, that will basically be your answer. The good thing about these questions is that you have options here. So in terms of CAT, if you have no options, you are supposed to find out the entire order on your own. But in terms of the NMAT, you are not expected to find the order or discover the order on your own. You are supposed to figure out which option is the best order or the best rearrangements of the sentences that would have been given to you. The third topic is in terms of error identification. You will be given a particular statement and you will have to figure out which part of it has an error in it. The fourth topic that we have here are prepositions. So prepositions essentially will help you transmit information from one part of the sentence to the other. And based on the preposition, you will figure out where is one object with respect to the other object, let's say for example, or where does it fit in that entire sequence. So prepositions are a standalone topic when it comes to the NMAT and are particularly important. The fifth question type here is sentence completion. Now, sentence completion can appear in a lot of different ways. One, you can have sentence completion questions that have one gap in them. So you have to just fill in the blanks using the best word that you have from the options given to you. Sentence completion can also involve fill in the blanks based questions that are wherein you are expected to put a preposition, put the correct preposition. You can also have a question type wherein there are 6 sentences given to you, all of them have blanks, and you have to figure out which preposition will fix the most number of blanks. And the last question type that we have from language skills is in the form of analogies. So if A corresponds to B, then C corresponds to what? So those kind of questions wherein there will be an argument given to you or there might be a couple of words given to you, and on the basis of that relationship you have to figure out what will be the fourth element if the third element is something. So all these are fairly reasonable, manageable questions, things that you would have seen earlier. Now let's look at the first area, that is reading comprehension. Now, in terms of reading comprehension, it's a fairly straightforward area. There will be a passage that will be followed by a set of questions. But in terms of the NMAT, the number of passages can vary from 0 to 2. So in very rare cases, we have seen candidates not getting even one reading comprehension passage. Whereas in a majority of the cases, people will end up getting 2 reading comprehension passages. In some cases, people also get only 1 reading comprehension passage. But overall, out of the 36 questions that are a part of language skills, you can expect somewhere from 5 to 10 questions that will be based on reading comprehension passages. Now, the passages are not very lengthy. There are 375 to 450 words based passages that are a part of the reading comprehension part. Now, the sources include the Hindu and the Economist. Now, this is something that has been mentioned in the official guide for the NMAT, and that's why we have mentioned this source, the Hindu and the Economist. So publications like the Hindu and the Economist are referred to when they are setting the reading comprehension passages. And in terms of the topics, this is the broad division into which NMAT divides its RC passages. The first topic is humanities. Now, humanities will include passages that are based on art, culture, and so on and so forth. In terms of natural sciences and technology, which is the second topic into which you can classify NMAT passages, you will have something that is based on biology, science, physics, technology, and so on and so forth. The last bit, which talks about social sciences, might have passages that are based on political ideologies, civics, and so on. So these are the broad topics into which NMAT divides their reading comprehension passages. Now, if you look at the other question types that we have, in terms of para formation, as we saw, it is very good in this particular context that we have options, and that's why elimination will work best. The second thing is in terms of grammar, wherein we have to identify the errors that are present in a particular sentence. There might also be a question type wherein you might have 5 alternate ways in which you will be able to write a particular sentence or rewrite a particular sentence, and you have to figure out which one is grammatically the best way to represent this sentence given to you. In terms of the concepts that are tested in grammar, you are going to be having questions that are based on tenses. So there might be a change in tense that might be present, which might be the error in that particular statement. You can also have questions that are based on subject-verb agreement. So if it's a singular subject, then you have to have a singular verb. If it's a plural subject, you have to have a plural verb, and so on and so forth. So there are quite a few rules that are present as a part of the subject-verb agreement that exist in terms of the NMAT. In terms of dangling modifiers, again, you can have these kind of questions wherein the attribution might not really be to the subject that it is supposed to be. So these kind of errors are also present in terms of the grammatical error based questions at the NMAT. The next error type is based on pronoun and antecedent agreement. So there is a pronoun that is present, there is an antecedent that will be present, and we have to understand which is the antecedent or which is the pronoun to which the antecedent is referring to. And if there is some error there, some ambiguity there, then that will basically be the erroneous part of a particular sentence. We also have questions that are based on diction, idiomatic errors, and prepositions. Now, these are generally fill in the blanks based questions. So, when I say diction, it essentially means using the right word, which is again the root form of dictionary. So, vocabulary is something that is routinely tested at the NMAT. So, be it in terms of fill in the blanks based questions, be it in terms of the sentence completion questions, or standalone questions, which will expect you to figure out whether the word used is in the right spirit or not, and if it indeed fits a particular sentence or not. So these are the topics that we have in terms of the language skills section. Now moving on to the logical reasoning section. This is a section that has a lot of variety when it comes to the NMAT. So the first part that we're talking about is in terms of critical reasoning. So whenever I say critical reasoning, you have to critique something, meaning that you have to analyze an argument, you have to figure out what exactly are the inherent assumptions, what all things have been used to strengthen / weaken that particular argument, what exactly is the inference, what exactly is the conclusion. So there are these four aspects that are present in terms of critical reasoning, and you will find questions that are also based on these four parameters. So you will have questions that are based on conclusions. So you have to conclude something that is not given to you in a particular paragraph, and that is something which is a global conclusion that you will be able to derive from a paragraph that would have been given to you. So that could be one critical reasoning based question type. You also have inference based questions. So what can we infer? Again, something that is not said relevant to the paragraph is considered to be an inference. So what can we infer from the data that has been given to you? The third question type is assumption based. Which of the following is an assumption that is implicit in this particular paragraph? So when the author says something, the author would have assumed that something is the case, and to satisfy that particular bit of curiosity, this entire premise was something that was proposed, and that is your assumption based question. The last question type involves strengthening and weakening of arguments. So you might have to strengthen or weaken an argument assuming that something is true, or you might want to understand how is an author strengthening or weakening their arguments. So that is the first part of logical reasoning, which is critical reasoning. The second part of logical reasoning involves deductions. Now in terms of deductions, there will be a statement, a paragraph given to you, and you will have to figure out what is the conclusion that we can draw. So which of the following can be conclusively derived from a particular paragraph? That could be a question type. You can have a statement / assumption. So one statement might be given in term, and you might have multiple assumptions that are present. You would have to figure out which assumption is implicit in the form of a particular statement. Or you might have to figure out, if there are two sentences given to you, which one is an assumption and which one is the actual statement. So that could be a question type that you might get. Statement followed by multiple courses of action. So there could be a premise that would be given to you, a hypothetical scenario, let's say, and that will be followed by two courses of action. You have to figure out which one or both of them will essentially follow that particular premise. You can also have a question type which talks about fact analysis. So there will be a fact that will be given to you. You have to just analyze that particular fact and figure out whether that thing is applicable elsewhere as well. And finally, you will also have statement and argument. So again, statement would be given to you and you will have to argue against the statement. Yes, this statement is right because of something, or no, this statement is not right because of something else. So this is basically deductions based questions that you can see at the logical reasoning section of the NMAT. The third part that we're looking at in terms of logical reasoning involves analytical puzzles. Now, this is something that we have been solving for a long time. So we will get puzzles that are based on arrangements, puzzles that are based on matrices that are there. So you might have to attribute characteristics to a particular individual. There might be a couple involved. They might travel to a different city. They might have a different colored car, so many children, or there will be a chronology involved, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of question types that you can get in terms of analytical puzzles, but they are all mainstream in nature. You will not generally see obscure puzzle types that will be a part of the NMAT. The second thing that we are talking about in terms of the logical reasoning part is the sequential output based questions. Now, this is something which is not unique to the NMAT, but something that people prepare for when it comes to the NMAT specifically. So there will be a string that will be given to you, which is an input, and that string undergoes a lot of different variations, and there is an output that is generated by a machine. And you have to figure out what exactly is the logic through which this entire input goes through till the time it reaches the output. And then you can have questions which will be in the form of, if this is the input, then what would be step 3? If this is the input, which element from the left end would be 73 in step number 4? How many steps will you require to come from or to go from this input to this particular output, and so on and so forth. So this is again a very special question type to the NMAT, and this is essentially what comprises analytical puzzles. The last area that we are talking about in terms of logical reasoning is conveniently named other reasoning. Now, other reasoning can involve questions that are based outside of the first 3 areas that we looked at. So you can have missing values in figures. So there could be a square or a magic square given to you. There could be some triangles that would be given to you. There will be 3 numbers that will be written on the 3 vertices of one triangle, 3 numbers on another triangle, and the third triangle might have one missing vertex. And you will have to figure out what is the number that should be present in that particular vertex or on that particular vertex. So this is a very common question type that you get at the NMAT. You can also have questions that are based on set theory. Now, set theory need not mean Venn diagrams that are 2-factor or 3-factor based. You can also have 4 different diagrams that are there. So a rectangle represents all the people who like maths, a circle represents all the people who like English, a triangle represents all the people who like history, and a square represents all the people who like geography. And there will be numbers that will be present in all these intersections that will be there. And you will have to figure out how many people like history and geography but do not like English. So those kind of questions can be asked in terms of set theory. Standalone questions, very straightforward questions if you are going to get any of these. Then there are questions on decision making. This is similar to what you might expect at the XAT as well, but it is of a much lower intensity. You might get a standalone question and you might be asked, okay, which of the following courses of action might be an appropriate response if you were to generate an ethically sound argument? And you might be given 5 options, and from there you will have to pick and choose which one is the best decision in that particular context. You might also want to rank, or you might also have to rank decisions in a particular order and then put that order or choose that order from the options that would have been given to you. In terms of ranking test, again, you might have to rank things in a particular order. So those kind of questions can also be present. Again, it's a fairly straightforward question type that you get. There might be an offshoot of this question type, which might also involve certain conditions that would have been given to you. If a particular individual is born before so and so date, then that person is selected. Otherwise, that person is sent to the managing director for an interview. If this person has at least 10 years of experience after their graduation, then they will be selected. Otherwise, they will have to go to the HR manager for an interview. Those kind of questions can also be present at the NMAT. Then you have Venn diagrams, which is an offshoot of set theory. So you can have some numericals that are based on Venn diagrams that might be present in the logical reasoning section of the NMAT. And finally, you have questions that are based on syllogisms. Syllogisms literally means joining a lot of logic together. So you get questions in the form of all cups are saucers, some saucers are dishes, or which of the following conclusions can be drawn? And then there will be conclusions like all cups are dishes, some cups are not dishes, no cup is a dish, and so on and so forth. So out of the options that would have been given to you, you have to figure out which one is logically, or you can conclude something logically from the arguments or the statements that would have been given to you. So that is basically syllogism. So these are the 3 areas, or these are the 3 sections that we have in terms of the NMAT, and these are all the topics from where you can get questions at the NMAT. There is nothing going to be present at the NMAT which is beyond these topics, purely because these topics are present in the official guide of the NMAT. If you want that one resource that will tell you everything about the NMAT, that is the official guide to the NMAT. I hope this video was useful to you. If you liked the video, do give us a thumbs up and do comment in the comment section below about what you felt about this particular video. Do subscribe to the channel and do share this video with other friends whom you think would benefit from this particular video.